I'm glad you're here. This is Spiritual Healing Coach, a safe place for women healing after spiritual harm. If you left a toxic church but still feel guilt, fear, or anxiety, you are not alone. That guilt does not mean you failed God. It does not mean you sinned, and it does not mean your faith is broken. Many churches condition women to equate obedience with worth and fear with holiness. When you step away, your body can carry that conditioning even after your mind knows the truth. Today, we're counting down the real reasons guilt lingers after leaving a toxic church, and why what you're feeling is not sin, but part of healing and reclaiming your spiritual safety. Number 5. You were trained to feel responsible for everyone else's comfort. Many women are taught, explicitly and implicitly, that being faithful means being agreeable, accommodating, and emotionally self-sacrificing. In toxic church environments, this message becomes deeply ingrained. You learn that keeping the peace is more important than telling the truth, and that asserting boundaries makes you selfish, rebellious, or spiritually dangerous. Over time, your nervous system learns a simple rule: other people's comfort equals safety. Discomfort, disagreement, or disappointment becomes something your body reads as a threat. So when you leave a toxic church, guilt often shows up immediately, not because you did something wrong, but because your body was trained to fear relational rupture. This is especially heavy for women who were praised for being servant-hearted, submissive, or easy to lead. Those labels often came with unspoken expectations. Don't question, don't resist, don't prioritize yourself. When you finally choose honesty over harmony, your body reacts as if you've broken a rule that once kept you safe. That reaction is not conviction. It is conditioning. Your guilt is not evidence that God is disappointed in you. It is evidence that you were trained to carry responsibility that was never yours. You were taught to manage other people's emotions in order to be seen as faithful. Healing begins when you slowly retrain your body to understand a new truth. You are allowed to have boundaries, to disappoint others, and to protect your well-being without betraying your faith. Your worth does not depend on keeping everyone else comfortable. 4. Fear was taught to you as spiritual discernment. Many women in toxic churches are taught to mistrust their own sense of safety and intuition. Fear is often reframed as wisdom. Anxiety is labeled as conviction. Unease is described as the Holy Spirit warning you. Over time, your body learns that feeling afraid means you are being spiritually attentive and obedient. This creates deep confusion. Your nervous system becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning for danger, while your faith language tells you that fear is proof you're listening to God. When you leave that environment, guilt follows because the fear doesn't disappear right away. Instead, it grows louder, and you're taught to interpret that as evidence you've made a sinful or rebellious choice. But fear is not discernment. In many churches, especially those that tightly control women, fear is used as a compliance tool. You're warned about deception, rebellion, selfishness, or being led astray. Your body absorbs these messages long before your mind can question them. So even when you intellectually know the environment was harmful, your body still reacts as if danger is near. That reaction is not a spiritual failure. It is a nervous system response shaped by long-term conditioning. Healing happens when you slowly learn to separate fear from truth. Discernment brings clarity, not panic. It brings steadiness, not constant self-doubt. As your body begins to feel safer, you may notice fear losing its authority. That doesn't mean you're drifting from God. It means your system is learning that safety and faith can exist together. 3. You were taught that self-trust is pride. Many women leaving toxic churches struggle with guilt because they were taught that trusting themselves is dangerous. Self-trust was framed as arrogance. Confidence was labeled pride. Questioning authority was treated as rebellion. Over time, you learned that being faithful meant doubting yourself and deferring to others who claimed spiritual authority. This kind of teaching disconnects women from their inner knowing. You're encouraged to silence your instincts, override discomfort and assume that if something feels wrong, the problem must be you. Your body may signal exhaustion, fear, or grief, but you're taught to pray harder instead of listening. Eventually, you stop trusting your own perceptions altogether. When you leave a toxic church, guilt shows up because you've broken a deeply embedded rule. Never trust yourself more than the system. Even choosing safety, rest, or honesty can trigger shame, because your nervous system learned that self-trust leads to punishment, rejection, or spiritual loss. That guilt is not conviction. It is the echo of conditioning that trained you to disappear. God did not design women to abandon their wisdom in order to be holy. Discernment requires awareness, not self-erasure. Healing often begins when you slowly reconnect with your own voice, learning to notice what feels grounded, what feels harmful, and what brings peace rather than fear. As you rebuild self-trust, guilt may flare at first. That does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means you are unlearning a system that taught you obedience at the cost of yourself. Number 2, love was made conditional on your obedience. Many women were taught, directly or indirectly, that love, belonging, and spiritual safety were conditional. You were affirmed when you complied, served, stayed quiet, or fit the role expected of you. When you questioned, rested, or pulled back, that warmth often disappeared. Approval became inconsistent, and your nervous system learned to work hard to earn it back. Over time, this creates a powerful internal rule. If I am loved, I must be doing something right. If I feel rejected, I must have done something wrong. In toxic churches, obedience is often positioned as the pathway to love, from leaders, community, and even from God. For women especially, this can feel like an unspoken contract you're afraid to break. When you leave, guilt surfaces because you've stepped outside a system where love was transactional. Even if you know intellectually that the environment was harmful, your body may still fear abandonment, punishment, or spiritual loss. That fear can masquerade as guilt, convincing you that leaving was unloving, disloyal, or sinful. But love that depends on your compliance is not sacred love. God's love does not fluctuate based on how useful, agreeable, or obedient you are. Healing often involves slowly separating true love from conditional approval. As you do, guilt may spike, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your system is adjusting to a new reality where love does not have to be earned. Learning to receive love without proving yourself can feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not a failure of faith. It is the beginning of freedom. Marker 1. Your body learned that leaving equals danger. At the deepest level, guilt lingers because your body was trained to believe that leaving was unsafe. In high-control churches, belonging is tied to survival, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. For many women, community, identity, purpose, and worth were all wrapped inside the church. Leaving didn't just feel like a decision. It felt like a threat to your safety and your sense of self. Your nervous system learned that staying meant protection and leaving meant loss. Loss of approval, loss of connection, loss of God's favor, even loss of yourself. So when you stepped away, your body reacted exactly as it was trained to react, with fear, guilt, and alarm. That response is not sin, it is survival. Your body wasn't asking, "Is this right or wrong?" It was asking, "Will I be abandoned if I do this?" That question runs deeper than belief. It lives in memory, attachment, and instinct. This is why guilt can remain, even when you are confident you made the right choice. Healing happens when your body slowly learns a new truth. You are still safe. You are still loved. You are still held. Over time, as safety replaces fear, guilt loses its grip. Not because you forced it away, but because your system no longer needs it to survive. If guilt is still showing up, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means your body is catching up to the truth your soul already knows. If this video helped you feel seen, grounded, or less alone, you can support this channel at ko-fi.com/. spiritual healing coach. Your support helps keep this space compassionate, accessible, and available for women healing from spiritual harm. Until next time, remember, your peace is worth the process. I'm so glad you're here.